Hi everyone and welcome along. We are very much in peony season, so I thought we should paint a beautiful vase of peonies in a really loose and vibrant watercolour style. So grab your paints and let's get started. Right then, let me just mix up my colours, and whilst I'm mixing up my colours I want to tell you about Skillshare, who are sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators, and I know that you love watercolour, so I think you'd be really interested in this. Maybe you want to find another creative skill, a new medium for your painting and drawing, or maybe you are interested in starting your very own YouTube channel. And there is a brilliant course I saw called YouTube Success Script, Shoot and Edit with MKBHD, and I wish I'd had this when I was starting out. Marcus Brownlee goes through not only what kit and technical elements you need, but also you think about why you want to create a YouTube channel and how to connect with your viewers and find a genuine connection. So if Skillshare is something you would like to join, then the first 1,000 people can use the link at the top of my episode notes to get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. So that is pretty cool and not one to be missed. So now I've told you about our sponsor, let's get on with our video. To paint in a loose style, a larger brush is what you need. So I have a size 8, a 6 and a 4 that are going to do everything I need today. So I've got a really dilute bit of permanent rose here. I'm getting the water in the palette so I can get it the colour I want. And now I'm going to put it on the page and I'm going to create my peony shapes. But I really don't need much colour at all. What I'm trying to do here is create this sort of ball-like shape that I associate with the peony so much, but also to make sure there's a little bit of sort of unpainted space in there, a few little white lines that just help define the shape. And then we'll have one up here, maybe a little bit more open, but there is hardly any colour going on here at the moment. It's just much more about the lovely sort of extremely translucent pale water. And then I'll have one more down here. And you'll see that I'm painting with confident strokes. I'm not taking too much time. And that is the other key to success when painting really loose watercolour flowers. So I'm also going to just pop in a few petals that might have just curled off and away. And now I'm going to use Sap Green. I'm going to use my size 4 brush. Got that mixed down here. And I'm just going to gently start placing a stem or two in. And I'm fully aware that I'm going to get a little bit of a bleed, but that's no bad thing. It's just so important, if you do get these little bleeds, to just leave them alone. Let them be, because you will run the risk of muddying up your colour. So that one's going to come down in here. So my loose style, the stems are going to be just sort of loosely placed in. Can I say the word loose or loosely anymore? I don't know. And then one more here. And because we've already got some petals hanging down of that one, we're not going to see a huge amount. Now we can pop in the top of the vase. So I'm just mixing just off camera because my palette is so massive and I'm trying to get the pink and green colours really prominent, and I've also got quite a large piece of paper today, so couldn't fit everything on there. But essentially I'm just creating my brown and blue shadow mix, so French Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and I'm getting a sort of more of a bluey grey than a brown shadow, and I'm just going to get my brush quite dilute and just place in a little rim of the jar. There we go. So that helps us just judge where we're going to be placing bits and pieces. So I'm now going to pop in a few leaves. And peony leaves are actually quite slender, so I'd love to be able to try and do these with a single brush stroke. But you can't always get exactly what you want, so if you need an extra stroke, you can just pop that in. I think we'll have one just coming up off there, and maybe one. I think that's quite a nice balanced piece. Now, whilst we let that just settle in, we can start looking at the vase itself. Now, on Patreon at the moment, I've been doing some more like detailed glass vases as well as some loose watercolour painting. Today we're going to do a loose one here. So I've got my shadow and size 4 brush, and I'm going to just use the belly of the brush to create the edge there and here, a little bit thinner. So what I love about loose watercolour painting is that kind of abstract feel. I don't want everything to be perfect and symmetrical. I really celebrate that slightly sort of wonky feel to it. Very much capturing the essence of the piece, and that's why this is probably the most difficult type of watercolour painting, even though it looks like it should be the easiest. So just sort of capturing a few details on the jar, a little bit of that darkness. And then, of course, the stems are going to come down in. Now, I've made sure that there are elements of this jar that have got a sort of wetness, a wet surface there, because what I want is when my stems go in, that they are going to sort of distort. And then some are going to sort of capture the water, and then some are going to be quite crisp still. Lovely. Now let's look back at the peonies. Now my water is really murky now, so I want to change that up to make sure I've got a lovely fresh jar of water. I'm going to now paint on a second layer onto the peonies, and the peonies are still a little bit wet, which is what I want, but they are much drier than they were. So the colour that I'm going to place on, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of Alizarin Crimson, which is just a little bit darker and moodier than permanent rose, and I want to start creating the sense of some sort of extra layers and depth. So my hope is that this colour goes on as a sort of complement to what I've already painted. And you can see there that it's really seeping in nicely. And then this one is still really quite wet, so again we're just able to get a little bit more colour in the base there. Now I'm going to place in a little bit of French Ultramarine blue into my Sap Green, because I want a deeper colour for the leaves. And what I'm going to do is just create a few little accents of darkness here. And what I love about loose painting is you get a mixture of things blending in and some things just staying nice and crisp. It's all about timing, really. So for the last little layer on the peonies, I'm going to let them dry fully, and then we'll come back and do those last little bits. So this is now touch dry, and I'm getting one more layer, slightly more concentrated again, mixing up permanent rose and alizarin crimson. So I am going to first, on this one, I'm actually going to drop in a bit of sort of dark colour into the top, into the sort of centre of the flower. And this just helps sort of create that sense of that rather closed cup. But I am going to just blend it out at a fraction. And then I'll get some actual Alizarin Crimson on its own. And get a little bit there. And then for this one, a bit more just at the base, I think. And that's just what you're trying to do, just trying to capture the fullness of the peonies. And whether they're more closed like that or opened up and unfurling, you can just keep on placing in little bits of colour, but there is also a time to stop. And I think I've found it. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this episode. I want to also thank my patrons for their support, for enabling me to keep creating these videos that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you're getting on. And of course, if you subscribe, then you'll never miss another video. Okay, until next time, bye!